The challenge no human should win, the Galactic Strength Arena, stood like a shining mountain of steel and glass in the heart of the Emergis Empire. From a distance, its curved towers glowed under the light of 3 suns, drawing beings from every corner of the galaxy. Inside, the air was thick with noise cheers, shouts, and the low hum of anticipation. Thousands of alien species had gathered, their eyes fixed on the central stage. Today was the yearly strength record trial, a contest only the strongest dared to face. Humans had never been here before. The galaxy knew them as small, soft, and diplomatic. They were explorers, traders, and problem solvers, but never warriors. No one expected them to survive this challenge, let alone win it. On the far side of the arena, Commander Rafe Carter walked toward the stage. He wore no armor, no weapons, just a plain gray jumpsuit and a calm expression. His boots echoed against the metal floor, the sound strangely loud in the massive space. Around him, aliens whispered, their voices dripping with amusement. Is that the human? He's tiny. His bones will snap before the machine even registers his hit. First and last. Human to try this, I bet. At the center of the stage stood the resistance plate, a massive circular slab of black alloy, protected by an energy barrier. It was said to be the hardest material known in the galaxy, used to measure a warrior's true strength. The reigning champion was the Kroth warlord named Garuk, a 12-foot giant with muscles like boulders and arms as thick as tree trunks. His record had stood for 19 years. No one had come close to breaking it. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. Next competitor, Commander Rafe Carter of Earth. The crowd laughed, the sound like a wave of mockery rolling over him. Rafe didn't react. He kept walking until he stood before the plate. The glowing energy field pulsed faintly, ready to absorb impact. The Kroth champion stepped forward from the sidelines, grinning. "Little human," he growled, "you should walk away now. Your kind is not built for this." Rafe looked at him, his voice calm. "We'll see." The referee floated closer, a small, insect-like being with holographic limbs. "Rules are simple," it said. "1 strike, 1 attempt. No retries, no tools. Use only your body. Do you understand?" "I understand." The insect being gave a nervous click of its mandibles. "Begin when ready." Rafe stepped closer. He placed one hand lightly against the plate. The surface felt strange cold yet alive, as if it was sensing him. Somewhere inside the machine, the sensors flickered. A faint, rapid beat began to echo through the arena, unusual, but no one paid attention. The crowd kept talking, their voices full of disbelief. They were here to see a spectacle, a weak human fail in front of the galaxy. But the ones in the front rows noticed something strange. Rafe wasn't tense. He wasn't bracing himself like the other competitors did. Instead, he stood still, breathing slow and deep. His eyes locked on the plate like he was studying prey. Garrick folded his massive arms, smirking. "Let's get this over with." Rafe adjusted his stance, 1 foot sliding slightly back. His hand closed into a fist. His breathing slowed even more. Somewhere in the stands, an old alien warrior leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. He recognized the stance. It was an old combat style, one used for focusing all power into a single strike. But it was supposed to be extinct. The announcer raised his hand. 3, 2. The arena went quiet. Even the hum of the energy field seemed to fade. 1. Rafe's fist moved. Not wildly, not with a roar, but with precise, focused speed. The impact wasn't just a hit. It was a controlled explosion of force. The sound was like a thunderclap, shaking the air. The resistance plate glowed bright white, the energy barrier flaring violently as sparks shot out. The crowd gasped. The machine gave a sharp electronic screech. The scoreboard above the arena flickered. Garrick's smirk vanished. His eyes widened. The old alien warrior in the stands whispered, "Impossible." The referee stared at the plate. A deep crack spread across its surface, a crack that had never existed before. The machine's display flashed red. Error, recalibrating. Rafe slowly lowered his hand. His breathing was steady. He didn't even look tired. And then the scoreboard began to count higher. Higher, past Garrick's record. Past the galaxy's all-time record. Gasps turned into stunned silence. The announcer's voice trembled. "We have never seen this before." Rafe just looked at the plate, then at Garrick. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the arena. One try was enough. Cliffhanger for part 2. The galaxy has no idea how a human did this. And Rafe isn't going to tell them. Asterisk. A history they didn't know. The crowd was still frozen in shock. Even the announcer's voice had gone silent, as if the air itself was trying to process what had just happened. The cracked resistance plate lay before them like a monument to something impossible. But for Commander Rafe Carter, this was not magic. This was history. The galaxy knew humans as peace talkers, explorers, traders, scientists. They smiled, they shook hands, they built alliances. But there was a chapter of humanity's story that no alien council had ever read. Years earlier, Earthrafe had grown up far from the shining cities that the Galactic Council saw in their official tours. His home was in the mountains, where the air was thin and the winters bit like teeth. His father, Marcus Carter, was no diplomat, he was a soldier. Not one of the modern peacekeepers with stun rifles and padded armor, but an old-world fighter, who believed in strength earned through sweat, pain, and willpower. Steel bends. Bones break. But willpower. Marcus would tap his temple. That's the one thing you can make unbreakable. Rafe's training began before sunrise every day. He carried stones up icy slopes, ran in storms with sand-filled packs, and lifted weights forged from scrap starship hulls, salvaged after the orbital yard fire. Marcus had no interest in the galaxy's respect. He was training his son for something greater, something that even then he refused to explain. One day, after Rafe collapsed in the snow, Marcus crouched beside him. "You think I'm just building your muscles?" he asked. "No, I'm building the strike." The strike. It wasn't about raw strength. It was about focus, about channeling every cell, every fiber, every breath into one perfect moment of impact. Done right, it could turn the smallest hand into a weapon that defied measurement. Done wrong, it would shatter your own body before. Hurting the enemy by the time Rafe was 20, he could break reinforced steel beams in a single hit. But Marcus wasn't impressed. "Steel isn't the galaxy," he said. "You'll face worse than this." Back in the present, Galactic Arena, the engineers swarmed the resistance plate, scanning the damage. They were speaking in rushed alien dialects, their voices tight with panic. Every second, the scoreboard continued to flash Rafe's score still, climbing even after the strike had ended. Up in the observation box, 2 members of the Galactic Council whispered urgently. Could it be genetic? No, humans don't have this kind of strength, not naturally. Then what? Technology? Augmentation? Either way, we need to know. Garrick, the Croth champion, stared at Rafe with narrowed eyes. "That was no accident," he growled. "What are you hiding, human?" Rafe met his gaze without blinking. "I'm hiding nothing. You just never bothered to look deeper." The announcer hesitated before finally addressing the crowd. "Ladies and gentle beings, the first human competitor has not only beaten the Galactic strength record, he has destroyed it. Score, triple the previous high." Gasps erupted again. But this time, they weren't filled with laughter. The Croth stepped forward until his shadow fell over Rafe. "You've proven your fist. Now prove your body. Face me in the gauntlet." The crowd roared approval. The gauntlet wasn't just a game, it was a combat trial. A place where strength wasn't measured by machines, but by survival. Rafe tilted his head slightly. His lips curved, not quite a smile. You don't want that fight. The Croth's grin widened. I do. From the shadows of the upper decks, the old alien warrior from earlier still watched. His eyes were locked not on Rafe's body, but on his stance, his breathing, his calm. He knew that style. He had seen it only once before, long ago, in a battle that changed the course of 3 star systems. He whispered to himself, the strike lives, and it's in human hands. Cliffhanger for Part 3. The arena prepares for the gauntlet. The galaxy thinks they're about to see the human lose, but they have no idea what's about to be unleashed. Asterisk. The first attempt at the gauntlet, the Galactic Gauntlet, wasn't just a fight. It was a spectacle an ancient test older than the Emerges Empire itself. No rules, no weapons. Only a closed arena where 2 beings entered and 1 left. Standing, the moment Garak's challenge was accepted, the arena shifted. Massive plates of alloy moved, sealing the floor into a tight circular cage. The lights dimmed, replaced by the pulsing glow of the barrier walls. Every sound was amplified, the shuffle of feet, the heavy breath, the low thrum of the energy shield. From the stands, the crowd leaned forward, eager. They had come expecting to watch a weak human break their hand on the resistance plate. No, they were going to see the same human crushed like an insect. In Garrick's entrance, the Croth champion stepped inside the gauntlet first. His massive frame filled half the space, his scales reflecting the barrier's light in jagged streaks. His muscles tensed with each step, claws scratching against the floor. He was bred for battle, a warrior species known for killing predators. With their bare hands, he turned and looked at the entrance. Come, human, let's end this farce. Rafe's entrance. Rafe walked in slowly. No swagger, no fear. He looked almost relaxed. His boots barely made a sound on the alloy floor. His hands hung loose at his sides, his eyes steady and unreadable. The crowd booed. Some shouted insults. Garak's grin widened. This would be easy. The barrier shimmered shut behind Rafe. Now it was just the 2 of them. The first moves, the signal horn echoed, and Garak moved instantly. His massive fist came down like a hammer, aiming for Rafe's skull. But Rafe wasn't there. In the space of a blink, he had sidestepped, his body twisting just enough to let the blow pass harmlessly. Garak's fist slammed into the floor, sending sparks flying. The Croth spun, swinging his other arm in a wide arc. Again Rafe wasn't there. He had already stepped aside, his movements precise, almost lazy. The crowd reacts. Confusion rippled through the stands. The human wasn't attacking, but he wasn't being hit either. Every dodge was perfect. Every movement so efficient it was almost mechanical. Up in the council's observation box, one of the delegates leaned forward. He's not wasting energy, she whispered. He's letting Garak burn himself out. Turning point, Garak roared and lunged with both arms, trying to crush Rafe against the barrier. But at the last second, Rafe ducked low and stepped inside the Croth's reach. His palm pressed lightly against Garak's chest, not shoving, not striking, just touching. Garak froze. The touch was wrong. He could feel the pressure building in that single point, like coiled lightning waiting to be unleashed. Rafe's voice was low enough for only Garak to hear. I told you, you don't want this fight. The strike in combat. Before Garak could react, Rafe's entire body shifted. His shoulder dropped, his hip twisted, his foot pivoted. The energy in his palm exploded forward, an invisible shockwave of force. The sound was like metal tearing in half. Garak's body lifted from the ground and slammed into the barrier wall hard enough to make it ripple. The giant crashed to the floor, gasping for breath, the end of the fight silence. The crowd didn't cheer, they just stared. Garak tried to stand, but his legs refused to obey. The strike hadn't broken bones. It had stolen the very will from his body, shutting down his strength in an instant. Rafe stepped back, hands still loose at his sides. "Yield," he said simply. The Croth's eyes, wide with disbelief, slowly closed. His voice was barely a whisper. "I yield." The aftermath, the barrier dissolved. The referee floated in, speechless. The match was over in less than a minute. In the stands, whispers spread like fire. This wasn't just strength. This was something the galaxy had never faced. And it came from a species everyone thought was weak. Asterisk, the aftershock. The roar of the crowd followed. Rafe out of the gauntlet. But it wasn't the roar of celebration. It was the sound of a storm, fear, confusion, and excitement all tangled into one dangerous noise. Security drones hovered above him, guiding him through a narrow corridor beneath the arena. Every step echoed, every turn took him deeper underground, until the air felt heavier. At the end of the hall, a set of massive alloy doors slid open with a hiss. Inside, the Galactic Council chamber awaited him. The chamber was shaped like a great circle, each seat carved from dark stone taken from the Council's founding world. 12 counselors sat above him on raised platforms, leaders of the most powerful civilizations in the known galaxy. Their faces and forms were as varied as the stars: fur, scales, crystal, metal. Some watched him with interest, others with open hostility. At the center, a holographic display hovered, showing the replay of Rafe's 2 victories, slowed down, analyzed from every angle. Lines of alien script scrolled beside it, noting impossible acceleration rates, force readings beyond machine capacity, and body mechanics that defied standard physiology. The questions begin. The High Chancellor, a tall being of liquid silver, spoke first. "Commander Carter, humanity's presence in the strength trials was unexpected. Your results, however, are unprecedented. Explain." Rafe met the Chancellor's gaze. "I struck the plate. I fought in the gauntlet. You saw the outcome." "That is not what I asked," the Chancellor replied coldly. "Where does this strength come from? Are you enhanced?" "No." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A crystalline counselor leaned forward, her voice sharp. "If not augmentation, then is it weaponry? Hidden technology?" Rafe shook his head. "It's something your records don't measure." The unspoken truth. The insectoid counselor clicked its mandibles. "We have studied your species. Your biology is ordinary by galactic standards. You are smaller, weaker, and slower than most. Yet today, you made a mockery of the galaxy's strongest. How?" Rafe stepped forward into the light. His voice was calm, almost quiet. "Because you measure power wrong. You think strength comes from muscle and bone. We know it comes from something else, something forged in hardship, sharpened in wars you've never read about." The crystalline counselor scoffed. "History does not win matches." Rafe smiled faintly. "It does if you survive long enough to make history." The shift in the room. A few counselors shifted uncomfortably. They recognized something in his tone, not arrogance, but certainty. Certainty was dangerous. The High Chancellor tapped the hologram, freezing the image on Rafe's strike against Garak. "This technique, where did it come from?" Rafe's answer was simple: Earth. The real question, the insectoid leaned in, eyes glinting. "And why reveal it now? Why here?" For the first time, Rafe's calm broke just slightly. His gaze swept the room, locking each counselor in place. "Because you needed to be reminded that humanity is not what you think. And because something is coming, and when it does, you'll want us on your side." The Silver Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "Something is coming?" Rafe didn't answer directly. He turned and walked toward the exit. The drones didn't move. To stop him, the whisper after he leaves, when the doors closed behind him, silence hung over the chamber. Finally, one counselor, an old reptilian with scarred scales, spoke. "I know that look. That's not a boast. That's a warning." The Silver Chancellor's voice was a whisper. "Then the question is, warning for who?" Cliffhanger 4. Part 5. As Rafe steps out into the open air, he receives a secure transmission from Earth. 3 words appear on his communicator. Phase 2 approved. Asterisk. The Croth's mistake, the suns over the emerges. Capital were beginning to set when Rafe stepped out of the Council's underground halls. The air above the arena still trembled from the day's events. Crowds were breaking apart, yet whispers followed him like shadows. Security drones escorted him toward the transport bay, but they weren't alone. A deep, rumbling voice echoed from behind. "You walk away before we are finished, human?" Rafe didn't need to turn to know who it was. Garuk, the Croth champion, was striding toward him, the sunset glinting off his scaled armor. He was no longer smiling. His pride had been wounded in front of the galaxy, and that wound demanded blood. The public challenge. "You embarrassed me." Garuk growled, loud enough for nearby aliens to hear. "You embarrassed the Croth. That will not stand. I challenge you to the blood ring." The crowd stopped moving. The blood ring was not sport. It was an unregulated, no-limits death arena used by the warrior clans. No cameras, no rules, no interference. The drones moved in to block Garuk, but Rafe raised a hand. "If I refuse, then your victory in the gauntlet will be called dishonorable." Garuk spat. "The galaxy will say you cheated. You will not walk anywhere without mockery." Rafe studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Fine. Lead the way." The blood ring they met at an abandoned combat training hall deep in the lower districts. The ring was nothing but a pit surrounded by jagged metal. The audience was smaller here. No royals, no diplomats. Only soldiers, mercenaries, and killers who craved the sight of real blood. Garuk entered first, slamming his clawed fists together, his voice booming. "This time, I will break you in half before you can breathe." Rafe stepped in second, silent, scanning the ground, the walls, the shadows above. He wasn't just looking at Garuk. He was measuring the space, the angles, the exits. The fight begins. The signal horn sounded, and Garuk charged with terrifying speed for his size. His first strike was meant to end the fight, an overhead smash that could split a boulder. Rafe didn't move until the last second. His body shifted just enough for Garuk's blow to smash into the pit floor, sending metal shards flying. Before Garuk could recover, Rafe stepped in and drove his elbow into a nerve cluster just beneath the Croth's armored shoulder. Garuk roared in pain, swinging wildly. The crowd screamed for blood. The psychological game Rafe spoke between Garuk's attacks, his tone calm, almost conversational. "You want this because you think I took something from you. But your pride isn't gone because of me. It's gone because of what you saw in the Council's eyes." Garuk's strikes became more reckless. Rafe kept talking, circling, making the Croth angrier with each word. "They saw that a human smaller, weaker could end you, and they'll never fear you again." With a roar, Garuk lunged in desperation. That was the mistake. The final strike. Rafe stepped aside, caught Garuk's momentum, and turned it into a single perfect strike fist to chest. The same focus technique he'd used on the resistance plate. The force lifted Garuk clean off his feet and slammed him into the wall of the pit. The metal bent inward with the impact. The Croth slid to the ground, gasping. This time, there was no getting up. The quiet aftermath. Rafe knelt beside him, his voice low so only Garrick could hear. "I warned you." The Croft's eyes met his, and for the first time there was no hatred, only understanding, and a trace of fear. Asterisk, the secret revealed. The crowd around the blood ring was still murmuring as Rafe walked into the shadows beyond the pit. His steps were slow, deliberate, the dust of the lower districts clinging to his boots. A figure detached itself from the darkness, a human, dressed not in uniform, but in the worn, colorless clothing of a dock worker. The face was unremarkable, but the eyes, sharp, calculating. "Commander," the man said quietly, pressing a small black data chip into Rafe's palm. "Orders from Central. Phase 2 starts now." Rafe didn't stop walking. "Where?" The operative's answer was a single word. "Inside." The hidden operation far above the Emerge's capital, in the orbital docks where alien warships rested. Something was happening. The galaxy thought humans had no fleets here, no presence, no reach. But deep inside the crews of the Emerge's Empire's largest battleships, there were faces that didn't belong. Engineers, cargo inspectors, navigation technicians, all human, all placed there years ago. And tonight, they would move, back in the Capital. Rafe returned to his assigned quarters, a sterile apartment offered by the Council for foreign dignitaries. He locked the door, activated a portable shield, and slid the chip into a small reader. A hologram appeared flickering, encrypted, showing the symbol of Earth's Defense Command. Then a voice spoke. "Commander Carter, your strike at the trials achieved its purpose. The galaxy's eyes are on you. Now, Phase 2 will proceed as planned. Targets are embedded in fleets, armories, and command hubs. Synchronization begins in 72 hours. Maintain your cover until the signal." The message ended with a simple line. Strength was the distraction. Control is the goal. Elsewhere, the infiltrators in the belly of the Emerges. Dreadnought. Virith, a young human disguised as a ship's mechanic, finished replacing a power conduit. When no one was watching, he installed a second device inside the housing, small, almost invisible. Across the sector, in a supply station orbiting a gas giant, another human worker checked inventory crates. Beneath the false bottoms, she confirmed. A hidden contents. Compact railgun cores illegal in most territories. They moved like ghosts, speaking alien languages perfectly, blending so well that even their crewmates never suspected. Rafe's reflection standing by the window of his quarters. Rafe looked out at the glowing skyline. The Council thought today had been about proving humanity's strength. Garruk thought it had been about pride. The galaxy thought it had been a spectacle. They were all wrong. The strike was only the signal. The real game was about positioning, being. Inside every door, before the galaxy realized those doors had been opened, not an unwanted visitor. A chime broke the silence. Rafe turned, frowning. No one should be visiting him without clearance. The door opened, and a shadow stepped in. It was the old alien warrior from the arena stands, the one whose eyes had followed Rafe all day. "I know what you are," the alien said in a low voice. "And I know the history of that strike. But I also know you are not here just for sport." Rafe didn't answer. The alien leaned closer. "If the Council discovers what you're doing, the Emerge's fleets will burn your homeworld to ash." Rafe finally spoke, his voice calm. "If they try, they'll discover that Earth doesn't burn easily." The day the galaxy took humans seriously, high above the Emerge's capital, the warship Virith drifted in its docking cradle. To the casual observer, it was silent, resting before another routine patrol. But deep inside, 3 humans moved. With clockwork precision, each working in a different part of the ship, each waiting for the same signal. In Rafe's quarters, the signal came. A soft vibration in his wrist. No lights, no sound, just a subtle pulse only a trained human would notice. He looked out the window, seeing the capital skyline shimmering under the three suns. In his mind, the memory of his father's voice echoed, "A single strike can shatter more than stone. It can shatter fear." Phase 2 begins across the sector. Embedded human operatives simultaneously activated hidden systems they had been planting for years. In the Virith's engine room, a disguised mechanic slid open a maintenance panel, revealing a crystalline device no alien blueprint contained. One press of his thumb, and the device fused with the ship's reactor core. On the supply station, a cargo inspector keyed in a false code, instantly transferring control of railgun stockpiles to an encrypted human network dot in the Emerge's command hub itself. A quiet communications officer rerouted a fraction of the Empire's secure data traffic through a hidden Earth relay. No alarms went off. No one noticed. The Council's realization, the Galactic Council Chamber, was mid-session when an urgent alert interrupted the proceedings. "High Chancellor," the AI voice announced, "unauthorized activity detected in multiple strategic fleets. Command systems are unresponsive." Counselors began shouting, demanding answers. Garak, still recovering from his defeat, watched silently from the shadows. He understood now it had never been about the trials. Rafe's final move. Rafe walked calmly into the council chamber, uninvited, flanked by two security drones that didn't realize they were escorting their own saboteur. "You wanted to know our strength," Rafe said, his voice carrying through the hall. "Now you've seen it." The resistance plate was just the first strike. The gauntlet was the second. Phase 2. He paused, letting the words hang, "is already finished." The silver High Chancellor's voice trembled. "What have? You done?" "Nothing you can undo," Rafe replied. "And nothing you can stop." The reveal on the main holoscreen, an image appeared half the Emerge's fleet, their transponders now broadcasting Earth's Defense Command signature. The rest of the ships weren't destroyed, but they were frozen, unable to fire, unable to move. The chamber erupted into chaos. Some counselors shouted for war, others demanded immediate surrender talks. The old alien warrior in the corner simply smiled grimly. "They planned this for years," he muttered. Rafe's exit. Rafe turned and walked toward the doors, the chaos behind him growing louder with every step. Before leaving, he looked back over his shoulder. One try was enough to break your record. One night was enough to take your fleets. Next time, his eyes locked on the High Chancellor, we won't be this gentle. The doors closed behind him. Epilogue from orbit. The newly commandeered Emerge's warships began to drift toward a single rally point in space. Their destination was not revealed to the galaxy, but to Earth. It was the first day of a new era. The day the galaxy learned that humans don't just play the game, they change the rules.